Hello, hello, hello. Crafty Chris here for another Scrap Your Scraps Thursday night. Tonight we are going to make a card. We're using paper and ink and paste, and we're doing some coloring. So we are going to create just a sending you fairy wishes card or something like that. I haven't figured out what I want to call it yet. I am using a bunch of different things, which you've already seen in the description. So we will get started. The first thing we have to do is create our oval that we're going to be putting our paste and our ink on. And I will just go off screen for a quick moment to run this through. So we have our oval cut, and there's some extra stuff I can trim up. And the other thing I want to do is to stamp on a piece of card as well. My stamp platform. I have my mixed media mat because I don't want things to get messy. I'm going to stuff everything into the corner. I have my guys at the back here. Got to keep those guys separated because you don't want them smashing into each other. And now, this is the first time I'm using this stamp. And we want to have lots of room. Make sure that I have that all nice on there. Because I'm using alcohol markers to color my little guy, I am using an alcohol marker friendly ink. I've got Hero Arts Intense Black. I'm sure there's many other brands out there you could use. And I'm just now going to make sure I've got everything lined up for the corner. Make sure that I am going to miss all the things I have there. And this is a new stamp, so you have to get it sort of charged. I find the water-based inks have trouble with new stamps. But the nice thing about using a stamp platform is you have a couple of runs at it. And I do have a ball roller thing, but let's see if I need it. Oh yes, totally need it. I've got my pressure tool. Okay, we're going to charge this again. Close this up, make sure nothing was pulled out of alignment. Line that up. And we are going to press down our stamp onto the paper. Hopefully, this will give us what we need. And we're still missing near this magnet and that magnet. So I'm going to try again. And it's the nose we need, but let's do the whole thing. The butt and the nose and the butt. And I'm just going to move that. Whoops, see, I moved the paper, but I'm just going to move these guys. And then hopefully I won't double image it because I just shifted the paper. But that's what these are good for, these stamp platforms, is being able to get everything tucked right into the right place, no matter what happens. Now, nose, tail. I got a double image. Well, not to worry, because look, there is the other side of the paper. So again, we're going to try that. I'm going to stick this right into the corner. Like that. Stick this right into the corner like that. And we are going to load up and try that all again. And that happens sometimes, you know, you just don't get it lined up, or you move it and you forget to double check one of the things. So this is in, and away we go. Let's see how we do now. Oh, there we go. I want it just a little bit darker. So I'm really going to load this up. Make sure everything's tucked in. because sometimes your stamp is sticky. And we're going to roll that down again. Nicely rolled. Okay. Love it. Beautiful. That only took 2 times that time. All right. So again, you want an alcohol marker friendly stamp pad, and I'm using the Hero Arts Intense Black. Okay. And this, whoops, that was lucky that they just attached at the side, because if they go one on top of the other, it's a really big pain to get out. Now, you are going to want to clean this. Right now, I'm going to wipe it with a wet wipe. I have a couple of wet wipes. I'm just going to tuck them into my ink baggie just to keep them wet. So there's one for the paste. And I'm just going to wipe off anything I can get off right now. And then I'll do a better clean. And with the alcohol marker friendly inks, they're water-based, so they clean up fairly well just with a wet wipe. Now, if you go into the permanent markers, you might want to use some kind of a solvent cleaner. And there we go. So this guy is good to go. And I'm just going to put him back on his plate so I don't lose him. And there we go. He's all good to go back into his space. We have our froggy. I'm going to color him first, and then I'm going to die cut him out. I'm not using the land mask that's at the bottom because it's going to be sitting on a pasted oval. So we're going to do that in a minute, but first, before we do that, we want to get our mat ready to go. We have to not forget to put these on the back of your tool because you don't want to lose them. All right, so now we are going to do some paste on the back of this. And this is where my arthritis sometimes has a problem. So I have a, oh my goodness, that's disappointing. I'm going to have to soak that to get that open. So we ran out of the other paste, but that's okay. I have Sizzix Crystal Paste, which has a white base, which is what I want because I want the color of the ink to show up. And this I know is okay because I just used it the other week. I'm currently doing this thing with Paper Crafters Workshop where you use up your old stuff and you can get like a PhD, which is projects half done. So you earn a projects half done degree when you get things used up and finished. So I'm digging into all my old stuff. All right, so whenever you do this kind of technique, you want to just add a tiny bit of the color at a time. So I'm just going to put a drop on my mat over on this side, and I'm going to pull that color into the paste. And I'm just going to mix it up. This paste is a bit, it's starting to get old, so it's a little bit sticky, but that's okay because I feel like the ink will add some moisture to that. And I'm probably going to need a little more. But you can see how it's starting to pick up that purpley color. So we'll put another drop and just keep playing with it until we like the color it's become. And I don't want to go too dark because I'm playing with some light purpley colors over here. So far that's 3 drops if anybody's counting. And I just want to scoop up any of the color I can. Wipe down the remnants. And I think I'm going to go with that. Just mix it in really well before it dries. And if I don't have enough paste to go over the surface, I will make some more. Now, what I think I need to do, just to make this a little easier to spread, is I'm going to add a spray of water because I'm noticing it's quite thick. Again, putting my water to one side because I don't want to overdo it. And I'm going to pick up some water. There we go. And that just makes it a little easier to spread. And you don't need a lot. You just need enough to take off that sticky texture. There we go. All right, that should be good. And I'm literally just going to spread it on my background. Now, I had hoped this is a little crunchy because it is a texture paste. I had hoped to use one of the iridescent pastes that I have, which is not as textury. But this I can just spread out, get everything up. And you can see that it is quite textury. And I'm just going to keep pushing it to the edges until I get it right to the edges. And I'm okay if I see paper underneath. I'm not trying to hide that there's paper there. I'm just trying to spread this color out as evenly as I can because it is thicker than what I had originally hoped to use. And it does spread. I just have to have some patience about it. And I put my fingers down here, so I'm going to try and get those fingerprints smoothed out as well. So there is my dusty rose, and because I have water there, I'm just going to use that water to loosen up what's on my spatula so that I can wipe it off. And on my fingers, put this to the side. There we go. We can get that off easier with a little bit of water. And I'm just going to do that to my fingers as well. And my mat. So I clean up a tiny bit before we move on. I'm just going to dry this and this. Make sure the background isn't wet. There we go. Make sure my lid is on my ink. That's an ink refill. When you first looked, you saw that this popped right up and folded right over. As it dries out, it flattens out. You can see it's going nice and flat now. So now you can see that it's gone back to its flat side. When it curls, it's because it's wet. Until you've actually dried it more or less thoroughly, it will stay curled. So don't fret if that happens, it's all good. All right, so now we're going to work on just doing the base of our card. I have an A2 size card, which is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And I'm going to cut this piece of paper 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. I always try to do the smallest measure first because that allows me to have the largest portion of paper left. So now we're going to 5 1/2. All right, so I want this background color to go in the back. No, I don't. Sorry, I changed my mind. I want this to go in the front. So we're doing 4 by 5 1/4. 4 by 5 1/4. Just realized because I want to have this on the dark, on this piece, and then this piece on that piece, because otherwise you're losing all of the pattern of the paper. All right, and then that goes on this piece, which is going to be 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. I'll just cut off there. There we go. And we just trimmed that up. It was pretty close to being what it was supposed to be, and there we go. So let me just trim that super neatly. There we go. So it doesn't look weird when we glue it down. And you just get your everyday adhesive out. Decide which side you like better, because sometimes one side is lighter than the other. In this case, it's pretty much the same. I'm going to do this side. you don't need a lot because there's no pressure on this. We're not lifting it up or using it as a mechanism. And we're just going to cover the entire front surface. So now we have, make sure always that you have your front surface there. And then this piece is going to go inside. So you get that nice dark purple frame. We could go smaller if we wanted to. Let's check that out. If I put this in here like that, and this piece goes in there, I'm thinking, no, I think I want to have a smaller area in the back because I want the focus to be this. I don't want the eye drawn to the dark back. So we're going to keep it the way it is. So again, 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and this one is 4 by 5 1/4. And just center that in as best you can. There we go. So there's our base. And then we are going to put this on top of our base. And what I like to do is I like to use thin. I have two kinds of pop dots. One are the 2 millimeter and one is the 1 millimeter. And I like the 1 millimeter to give that first layer, and then the frog will probably be 2 millimeter. Because I use it a lot, I use these big wheels. So this is my 2. You can see the difference in the size. So 1 millimeter is half the size, obviously, of 2 millimeter. So we're going to start with a 1 millimeter, and I don't bother using scissors for the 1 millimeter, especially because it's so thin. It just tears whenever you want it to tear. Okay. I want to make sure there's enough on here that it's going to support the frog. And I put the frog down. And just check that, oh, see, I can see a bit of the stuff off there. It's my scissors. So I'll just use that and trim off that little piece. Put it back where it belongs so I know where to find it next time. It's not the scissors I was using before, but they are scissors. Okay, and now I'm going to center this. And I usually have to stand up for that. And I'm doing it sideways because I find that helps me center better. There we go. And what it does is it just gives you that little raise off the paper, just that little bit of raise off the paper. Now, what I might do is go in with a paintbrush and some of the ink and just do the edge to isolate it. Let me see if that is something I might want to do. And I'm going to have to do it carefully because I probably should have done it before I stuck it down, but I didn't realize I was going to need it. So I'm going to add a tiny bit of water to that, like 1 shot, because it is quite intense. And get a teeny tiny brush, mix that all together. And you know what, for sake of the arguments, I'm going to use some of my old tape that I have lying around that I always hang on to, and I'm just going to knot the paper, or make sure the paper is protected, because I do not want it to really go onto the background. Button that down. So this is a little bit extra work that I probably could have avoided if I'd done it before I put it out there. But sometimes you just don't know, right? Until you put it on, and then you go, oh, I think I might want that different. So I've masked my paper now. I'm going to go in, just go along the edge with my ink, and it just kind of gives a finish to it. And I'm just blending it back. And you hardly see it. So I'm going to take this whole piece off here now and shift it to over here. There we go. And, you know, I can always just minimize some of the white spots if I feel I need to. I've really watered down the ink, so it's not going to show up as uh, any different than what's going on the surface. I'm going to take a risk and just do this at the top. Whoa, risky. And then I'm just going to use up whatever I have here. No sense keeping. And I've used up all that color now. And these guys I'm still going to use because they're in perfectly good shape. And this I can clean off because it's hardly any ink, and the ink is water soluble. I'm just going to go and clean off my brush right into my tissue. There we go. And it's done. Okay, so then the next thing we have to do, whoops, taking you on a bit of a ride. Sorry about that. There we go. You're going to put that aside, let that dry nicely. The ink is done, so that goes in the pile of done things. Now I'm going to color. So I love these Spectrum Noir tri-markers, or tri-blend markers. I am using Dull Green Blend, which has 3 colors of dull green, and Dusty Purple Blend, which has 3 colors of dusty purple. I always start off with my lightest color, and in this case it's dull green, and I am going to cover my entire frog. I'm going to try to follow lines so we don't have any weird streaky angular bits where things should be rounded. And it's hard to tell if this is actually a frog or a toad because it does have some bumpy bits on it, but the toes lead me to believe frog. And his back leg, which actually goes back there. Nice opportunity for shade. And I'm going to go to the front again. I'm going to color over the eyeballs because I'm going to put a dot of white pen for the highlight. Okay, so there we have our first level of color. Now I'm going to go to the exact opposite, which is the dark green. And the dark green is going to be anywhere there is darkness. So along the back here, likely in here, because that is the leg behind, probably a little bit just in this area. And I'm going to follow this line and round it out across the bottom. And the bottom, just a little bit of the toes. And right in this little corner here, where we have the belly go under. Okay, so that's my darkest color. Do I need anything else? Maybe a tiny bit in there. So now we're going to go to our middle green color, and we're going to extend the shadow even further. So here on the inside of this line, we have shadow. This is completely shadow here, but not as dark as the original. We're going to extend the shadow here. Okay, and along here. We're going to extend the shadow along the back of his body. And where his belly sits. I feel like we need a little more shadow there. So just kind of, rounding things like you would see highlights hitting. Alrighty, maybe there. Maybe under the eye here. I'm kind of liking what I'm seeing. You know what? I'm going to make that all green under that. So that makes more sense. This could be sort of a highlight. So we're going to snap that back on. Now, the one thing you want to remember is don't grab this one because you'll be adding dark. We want to go over everything in light again. So everything gets colored over in light again. And this helps to blend all those layers together. And sometimes you have to work it just a little bit. And I'll show you what I mean when I'm done here. So if you're seeing lines that are too obviously lines, you just go in and blend a little harder in those areas with your light marker. So it melds it more together. And there you have your frog with shading. All right, so now the next thing to do is the same process, but with the butterfly wings. So we're going to use our light, covering everything up with the light. And then with butterflies, you do have to make a choice as to what is going to be colored dark and what is going to be colored light. So I'm going to take my dark, and the first thing I'm going to do is go in and highlight these little dots that are on here because they're meant to be dark. It's like giving shadow. Okay, then I can go in and decide what needs dark coloring. So I'm going to make all these guys dark. Now I'm going to my mid color and I'm doing the outer edge mid color. And I'm going to go in to these buttons and I'm going to add some of my medium to that so that it's just that much more different than the shading is. And I'm going to add the lighter color into this area. And I should have gone over the black altogether. There we go. Just fill in those black spots again with the medium. Then we go back to our light again. And now we're going to cover the entire thing with light again. And then you're going to look in, you're going to say to yourself, okay, it needs a little more blending here. I want to darken these guys up a little bit more. So another layer of the light. And then you have your shaded butterfly. And you can, if you want, go along the lines because they are sort of raised on a butterfly, like veins. And just go in and give that extra little bit of punch. There we go. That gives you that look. All right, whoops, we forgot to do this. So we're going to go in here. Then I'm going to go in with the dark purple. And then I'm going in with my medium. And then I'm going to color it all again with my light. Now, the smaller the place to color, the more difficult it is with these thicker pens to get in. So cool. All right. So now let's go and take our die and we're going to cut our little froggy fairy out. All right. So we've got our little froggy. Now I'm going to take this thing off because it's actually embossed a number into the front of my frog. And that doesn't make me very happy at all. I'm going to get my little cutters. That's one less thing to worry about. And it did cut the bottom plate out, but I'm not using it, so all good. And there's our little fairy frog. Look how pretty that is. And he's going to be popped up. So let's get him popped up with my big massive wheels. There we go. Now I could pop him up just a bit, or I can pop him up his full 2 inches. I think I want to do the full 2 inches. Let's move you over there. That's my old frog. Remember the one that didn't work out so well? And see, you don't have to worry about that. You're not wasting anything by doing it again. You're just flipping it over. And I want to get enough on here because this is very textury. I want to make sure that it's going to sit nicely. So I'm going to add a little bit of glue to help with the sticking nicely. Okay, I put those back. Grab my scissors, and I'm just going to take a little bit for the toe here. Yeah, need even a little bit less. Okay, there we go, because I don't want the toe to get crushed. And this part can go sort of right there. Am I seeing anything? Nope. Perfect. And maybe a tiny little piece there. All right. There we go. Put that away. Okay, so now I am going to put some glue on this just to make sure little guy needs to be pushed down just a tad more. There we go. Can't get the little lid off because he's so tiny. There we go. So done, 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 done. Oh, one more there. And done. Okay, so these guys are all finished. Get the glue. Now we're just going to run a little run of glue on there. You don't need an awful lot. Just enough so that it goes into the card chunky surface. Now, make sure you have your opening on the right-hand side. And I want to leave room for a title across the top. There he is. Isn't he gorgeous? What a gorgeous little guy. Okay, I want to do a couple of details on this part of, I need to put a white dot for his reflection. So I am getting out my number 10 white pen. There's 8. There's 5. Where is 10? There's 10. And you always have to start these guys off your project because sometimes they get clumped up. And you want to make sure they're working before you go to your project. And I'm just going to put this in the spot which was meant for a reflection. Okay, do you see that? So that's nice and bright now. I want to do a little detail on the butterfly wings. Again, make sure my pen is working. And I'm going to add some glitter. Now this is a glitter pen versus like an actual brush glitter pen. It's got a nib. I don't know that Kuretake makes these anymore. I've had it forever. It's just nice and tiny glitter. Very, very tiny glitter. And you can control it because it has a nib. I'll show you the nib in a second. So it has a nib tip. Looks like it's all, but this is plastic, not felt. It's the very tip is where the glitter comes out of. So you can really control where you're putting your glitter. All right, there we go. And I think I want his eyes to glitter a little bit too. There we go. So we have glitter on the eye and on the little spots, and maybe just glitter up the line between so you can see the separation a little better. I'm wondering if I want to do some glossy on that eyeball. So I've got glitter there, and I've got the reflection, but I feel like it needs to have some shape. So I am going to take my Pink and Main Touch of Gloss, and I haven't even opened it yet. Again, something that I bought last year and haven't got around to using. So I need to take all of that. So let's see how this works out. It's got a nice tip to it. And I'm just going to sit above where I want to put it so I don't press down on the area. Oh, that's so cute. And you know what? I'm going to do his toes because they need to have some 3D-ness to them. And you know what? That's all I'm going to do for that. Okay. So it's white right now, but you can see that it will be glossy and three-dimensional. Okay, so I wasn't sure what kind of sentiment I was going to use on this project, so I went online and looked at what other people used that had to do with frogs, and I found this quirky one where the author is unknown, but the statement was "Together until we croak," and in that my froggy has butterfly wings. I was thinking angel wings, so I thought that would be a fun thing to do. So I just printed it off to get the color of what was going on in the coloring. And now I'm just going to mount it on a piece of old, unused cardboard from inside a product I bought at some point or other. I keep that because it's nice. You can use that for popping up your words and doing whatever you need to do with that. So I'm just going to simply glue this on. Now, I think I'm going to take my I have one of those 2.5-inch Xyron. I don't think they make the cassettes for these anymore, so there's no point telling you where you could get one. And I'm going to stuff that in there so that I get a nice even layer of adhesive, because what I find is when I use glue on printing paper and then try to adhere it to a piece of cardstock, I get a bumpy surface from the glue and I don't really like it. So anyway, here we go. Just going to cut this off. And I have a little tool, which is a rub-on tool, but it works really well for this particular kind of thing. And I just take my rub-on tool and I go over the entire surface because you want to make sure all that sticky stuff comes off. And then this has like a ball on the top, and I run that just along the edges so it eliminates most of the spider webby adhesive that hangs on when I do the large scraping of it. So it just cleans it up a little bit more. All right. And then we pull it off. And the slower you pull it off, the better. But look, there's no little webby anything on there. It's nice and clean and it's all set to go. Just a little tip. So now I'm going to pull these off very carefully because you don't want to separate the adhesive from the thing that you're trying to adhere. And I'm just going to line that up with the top of my piece, flatten it out. And I think I have enough room to do the same thing with this. And I'm going to trim it right down to the size. There we go. And then get my trimmer. Let's try doing this first. This is the challenging part. Make sure I've got to stick my finger in there and go very slowly so I make sure I get right on the edge. Awesome. And then I have a little hangover on the sides there, so I think I'll trim that off with a longer piece of scissors, or a pair of scissors. Put that down so I don't cut off my hand. Just take off any excess across the top. There we go. And then I can trim down all the extra pieces, go in the garbage. And I just see that there is a slight bit of an overhang on this side, so I'm just cleaning that up and doing the same for this one. This one's actually not too bad. Okay. So this one is going to go on the front, and I'm going to put it here. So I am going to use a 2mm pop piece on that side and a 1mm pop piece on this side, because I don't want it to be as high as this. I want it to be just slightly lower, but I have to accommodate that there is a 1 and a 1, so this that's off the paper needs to be a 2. If that makes any sense at all. So we're just going to get a little piece. Whoops! Went right off my table. Into my dust collector. I'm going to put that there. So that's 2 on that side, and now I need a 1 on this side. And I think I'll take a little bit more than usual because I want to make sure that it's going to stick nicely. And I am going to add some glue to the side that is going on top of the texture. Whoops! Which is the 1mm side. So just adding a little bit of glue, and then making sure it's straight, placing it down. So there we have together on the outside. And on the inside, I'm not going to pop it all. So I can just put some glue on the back of this paper. And center it. Oh, I just ruined my eyeball. So I'm going to have to fix that. Wasn't thinking about that not being dried yet. So until we croak. There we go. And I think I'm going to find myself a green heart. So here's my collection of little shapes and things that are all in greens. See if I can find something that matches the color. Hearts for the inside of this. And I'm going to just make sure it doesn't touch the ground because I've already messed it up. I have a little bag of hearts in here somewhere. There we go. They're a little too puffy. These guys are just a bit too puffy. The big puffy guys out of the way. How are these ones? Oh, these are cute. These are hand punched. I have a punch that has a scalloped edges around hearts. So I'm going to use those guys. And they will go down nicely. Okay, a little bit of green. I'm going to have one there. one there and one there. I like things in 3s or 5s. There we are. A little bit of hearts in there. Just move those aside. Okay, so we have our lovely frog. And I did flatten out his eyeball, but I think he's going to be okay. I think when he dries, he'll be okay. He's almost all dry. So there we have together until we croak. Isn't that fun? I hope you enjoyed today's Scrap Your Scraps, and please share with your friends if you did. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel at the end of the video below the video. It's free. See you next time. Bye.